It's time for us to talk Arsenal. I think they've had an impressive summer. I think that, when you're going into the transfer window, you're always hoping that you make the right acquisitions. You hope then that they hit the ground running. I think when we look at these players that they've signed over the summer, I think they have. I think they'll be really pleased with their business.
Yeah, I think so. I think in terms of the way transfer windows go, I'd be extremely happy with that. Being an Arsenal fan, looking at the names that have come in and the players they've come in is pretty special.
Who's been the most, it's hard to say the most impressive signing, because there's a difference between who's the most exciting signing and who's settled in the best. Have you got an answer for either of them?
Absolutely. I think it's a really good question, because Noni Madueke came in under a load of pressure. Lots of Arsenal fans weren't impressed with that signing, but I think he's dealt with that pressure. He's been brilliant for England. He's also been fantastic for Arsenal. I think, obviously, Gyökeres comes in because he's a striker. And, first couple of games he wasn't fit. He obviously wasn't fit, but he's starting to look sharp and fit. But Eze, I think, was the standout signing. Especially, not because they took away from Tottenham, but you just think it was something that was missing.
I think that helped, though.
Yeah, it certainly did. It did certainly help. But that kind of, that special player that Arsenal haven't had for a little while. But do you know what? The guy that I was impressed with this weekend was the guy they spent £13 million on. Because William Saliba was out of the side. And when he was out of the side, maybe in previous seasons, you think, oh, God, who's going to come and who's going to go and do the job? Yep. But this lad, Mosquera, only £13 million from Valencia. And I think Norgard, in time as well, will be a really clever signing as well. Experienced Premier League player who can step straight in.
For me, they've shown intent of, right, what can get us a title? And they've gone, do you know what, we'll back ourselves to go and get these players to take Arsenal to the next level. They're already competing, but what is going to give them their edge? A little bit more depth, a little bit more, creativity.
How difficult is it for someone like Mosquera, what Leroy was just touching on, to come in and make a debut defensively first, because there's a lot of pressure over not making mistakes and being competitive, but, he's come in and he's took the place of a really competitive pair of central defenders in Saliba, and how do you replicate that and keep them at a high level?
Yeah, listen, I think it's obviously always going to be big boots to fill. But for me, you trust the process. What he does day in, day out, what he's done so far in his career, that's just, taking that next step level, coming into Arsenal. I think, the environment that he's probably stepped into has helped him as well. Other players coming in and making their maybe home debuts or their, early stages of their career. And I think that will help massively.
Yeah. Well, this is, talking about signings, taking part in the team and settling into the team quite quickly. This is Arsenal's starting 11 v Forest. We've just highlighted the players they've signed in the summer. But this was their starting 11, just to give you a perspective of, how long players have been at the club. For instance, Marino was only signed last season. Calafiori was only signed last season. Timber had a terrible injury, kept him out for the season, hasn't seemingly been there that long. Gabriel and Odegaard, what's that? Probably about 5 or 6 seasons at most. When you look around the other top teams, they've all got real experience, like your Virgil van Dijks, your Mo Salahs. They've been at the club for a really long time. Arsenal have had an incredible amount of turnover without you really realising it, I don't think.
No, they look like they settled in very quickly. And when Arsenal fans see a team sheet without Declan Rice on it and Bukayo Saka, they used to panic. They were panicking. Oh, what we going to do? That performance against Nottingham Forest, I think, said to a lot of the Arsenal fans, you know what, we can certainly cope. Actually, not only cope, we can just continue in a certain vein of form.
Absolutely, and it's taken Arsenal away from being a 1 or 2 man team to being, with strength and depth within the squad, to come in with Eze coming in, Madueke coming in, and the other players that are going to come in and make an impact. It puts them in a fantastic place to start to go and challenge.
Well, those players are helping them cope with no Saka in the team, certainly. But the most impressive player at the weekend was a player that came in central midfield, wasn't it? Zubimendi, a man that came into what has been a competitive position for Arsenal. He's not the biggest of stature, and yet he's been so imposing in his first few games.
Look, everybody's like Zubimendi. He's been linked with Man City because of the Rodri situation for so long. Obviously, because he's Spanish as well. They thought he'd be a natural replacement to go into Man City, but Arsenal went and took him. And what he did at the weekend was something that I don't think we really expected, Leo.
No,
always.
Definitely not. I mean, he's been brought in to start play, to break up attacks and get round. I'm not sure he's been brought in for this. I just want to stop it there. Look at that technique. Look at the way that comes down to you. Now let's watch it in real time. It's past the goalkeeper themselves before he's even knows. I mean, what a wonderful hit. We get to see it from behind here.
Could you slow it down from this angle, Leon? Because it's his technique, which is absolutely perfect, isn't it,
It's
Joel?
beautiful, isn't it? And that's the hardest thing there, to make a good contact with the ball, and obviously, to hit the target as well.
Yeah, it's the balance, and he does it with so much balance. And, he's still stood on, when he hits it, he's not falling over. It's absolutely perfect. You see sort of players falling over when they hit it. It's just absolute perfection. Absolute great
Dreams are made.
Takes a big deflection. On goal. We were giving own goals, weren't we? No, but I mean, he certainly wasn't brought in for his goal-scoring prowess with his feet. He definitely wasn't brought in for his goal-scoring prowess in the air. I mean, what about that?
No, terrific header, isn't it?
Fantastic. And do you know what I like about this? It's the willingness to go and head the ball. To go and compete with the defender, with the centre-half, and kind of knock him over as well, and make sure that you get a good contact on it.
It really does bode well for Arsenal going forward. When all of a sudden you're holding midfield players coming out with a couple of goals like that, because as the season goes on and you're in tight games, had a tight game against Liverpool, they couldn't find a goal. And you think there's people like him with that sort of finishing ability can step up and score really important goals throughout the season. Yeah,
I'm looking at the squad and I'm thinking that they look even more competitive, and I'm talking as a squad. I didn't sit there at the end of last season thinking they're going to have to replace Martinelli. They're going to need some backup for Eze, but as well as the rest of the team, they've got backup in some top positions. But those are the two I want to talk about: Madueke and Eze. We'll start with Madueke. I mean, there was talk, there was a petition. I think it's very well known that there was a petition to, maybe stop that transfer going through from a couple of Arsenal fans. Let's not pretend it was the majority of Arsenal fans, but even they will now be thinking, thank goodness we didn't stop that, because what an introduction he's had.
Absolutely. And speaking to Joel about him, you've played against Nonny, haven't you? And what's the difference when you played against him in an Arsenal shirt now?
For right now, I feel like he's enjoying his football. The way in which he's come into Arsenal, the way in which he's set the marker out, he's being direct, he's energetic, he's taking those 1v1s and not turning back out and playing. I think there was a period at Chelsea where he just seemed a little bit unsettled and he would turn out and pass back, whereas here he's given the licence to go and be that difference, and he's enjoying it.
What I liked about him, Leon, was that he had an interview with him. They said, what happens when Bukayo Saka comes back? And he says, well, I can play on the left as well. So he expects to play, he expects to start, and he's only 23 years old. And I think you're absolutely right. All of a sudden, in a very short space of time, Mikel Arteta's got him just fully confident, and it's difficult to stop.
Well, I think that there's been an awful lot asked of Saka over the last couple of seasons, the demands on him. That it was inevitable at some point he may break down and have an injury. And you have to prepare for that. You have to have players that, if he was out for a full season, that can come in and not only sort of be a backup for him, but replace him, be just as good as him. And I mean, that's been a terrific introduction by Madueke. However, he wasn't the marquee signing of the summer. We touched on it. Emirates Eze, who is definitely a player that you've played alongside.
Absolutely, and it takes some change calling him Eze other than Ebbs. That's what I'm kind of used to. But listen, Ebbs is something special. He's got that X factor, the way in which he uses his body, the way in which he recognises space and how to exploit it, and the way in which he goes past people. He just glides, and it's a beautiful thing to see. It's never nice to come up against him. I've done that my fair share in training, and he certainly sat me down a few times. Only a couple, maybe. but no, listen, the way he picks up positions, the way he can manipulate the ball is a special, and he's a special talent.
I'd be happy just to be sat down. I think he'd injure me. I think if I was trying to compete, I mean, that's Van der Ven, one of the quickest.
Absolutely, but
what
he's done for Arsenal, they're a little bit under with Martinelli. All the pace he had, they're a little bit one-dimensional. But look, he can run in behind as well. He can get it to feet. He's just given them so many weapons down his left-hand side, and he assists and he scores goals.
Absolutely. It's going to be a really exciting time for him at Arsenal.
What's his best position?
That right there, I think, coming in off the left-hand side, for me personally, seeing him pick up the ball and start to drive with it and attack that space is where he's really going to cause some damage.
We just talked about Madueke being able to play on both sides. Can he play on both sides of the pitch, though? Can he be adaptable? Can he play central for them if they need him to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he could play all the way across that front line. He's got the ability to do so. Obviously, I think naturally being on the left-hand side suits Ebbs really, really well. You've seen from there and on those clips how he uses the ball, how he can take up space, how he can run in behind. And he's also not afraid to do the dirty side of the game as well when he needs to.
Which I think is a big part of all the top players' games. Well, this is Premier League record, season by season, since 2020. Goals compared to assists, obviously, seemingly impressive numbers. You've been quite pleased with that.
I've been really pleased with that, and I expect him to do better at Arsenal. And that's no disrespect to Crystal Palace. It's just because Arsenal aside, going to get him more of the ball in the areas that he wants. They're going to dominate possession more. So although his stats have been impressive, in the last 5 seasons, I think he'll embrace going to Arsenal because he's got that sort of character. Nothing phases him, and he'll see it as another stage for him to show what he's all about, Joel.
Absolutely. He'll see this as an opportunity to go on and kick on and achieve what he wants to go and achieve. And he wants to take this team to the next level. Combined with the other lads around him, I really do feel that they've got what it takes now to kind of overtake the Liverpools and the Cities. And I think it's going to be a really exciting time. But I'm probably a little bit biased. I love Ebbs, played with him, and he's been an amazing guy, an amazing player.
Do you think he can be the difference for Arsenal to take Liverpool on?
I do. I do, definitely. The way in which I've seen him over the last few years start to really step into that, leadership role as well, and to take a team forward. He bared a lot of the burden at Palace, and he executed, what is a great, goal to assist ratio.
Do you think he can beat those numbers? Goals, assists?
I really do. I think at Arsenal, I just think he just looks really comfortable in that Arsenal shirt. He looks like he's going to love it. It's a club that he loves, that he was at for a very young man. And he's got something to prove as well. And I think he will prove that.
Well, Arsenal have acquired some wonderful players that should give them an opportunity to really go for the Premier League title this year. We won't want to miss that. Thank you very much for joining us.